Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is a morning update. Boy, we've had a busy morning. Lots of news coming out. A quick update in the Ghislaine Maxwell and Virginia Roberts defamation case. Judge Preska has ruled that some of the documents in question will be released. Now, we're going to update that a little bit more when more information comes in on that. This ruling just occurred in the last half hour or so. So we'll touch on that more tonight when we have more details. Now, also, another ruling coming down and smacking Ghislaine Maxwell is what we're going to be talking about on today's show. And that ruling is that Judge Nathan has denied the request for the gag order. We discussed the gag order the past couple of days and how it was ridiculous and how I thought that Judge Nathan would do exactly what she did here. And well, here we are. Judge Nathan smacking down Ghislaine Maxwell and her ridiculous request for a gag order. Our article today is from CNBC. The headline is, Judge Denies Gag Order Request by Ghislaine Maxwell in Jeffrey Epstein Sex Crimes Case. The author is Dan Mangan. A federal judge on Thursday rejected a request for a gag order sought by lawyers for British socialite, child molester, child abuser, co-conspirator, general all-around scumbag, Ghislaine Maxwell, who is charged with helping the late investor, pervert, sick bastard, pedophile, child abuser, money launderer, human trafficker, plenty of names we can lay on Jeffrey Epstein besides investor. But Judge Allison Nathan warned prosecutors, defense lawyers, and attorneys for Maxwell's accuser and other witnesses that she would not hesitate to take appropriate action in the face of violations of any relevant rules about making public statements that could affect Maxwell's ability to receive a fair trial. Well, that's to be expected, right? Whenever you have a trial such as this, that is so high profile, and there's a lot of media interest, well, not legacy media, but our interest anyway, the alternative media, there is always fears that there's going to be a taint to the case, that people might talk, et cetera, leaks, blah, 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 blah. So that's to be expected, the judge making that statement and letting all parties know that there are certain rules that must be followed. So she did not slap the gag order. She denies the gag order, but she lets them all know that there are certain rules that must be played by. So I can get down with that, right? Again, we live in a nation that should be governed by law and order, by rules, by a certain set of principles that happen in one of these court cases. What should never occur is this sort of thing being worked out in the dark. A plea agreement with Jeffrey Epstein and his co-conspirators being cooked up in the dark by a scummy, dirty son of a bitch like Alan Dershowitz. That should never occur. Okay? This should all be done in a transparent manner, and it should all be done by the book. The court will ensure strict compliance with those rules and will ensure that the defendant's right to a fair trial will be safeguarded, Nathan wrote in a filing in U.S. District Court in Manhattan, where last week she ordered the 58-year-old Maxwell held without bail, calling her an extreme flight risk. And again, the court has a certain set of rules that they want followed. What they're trying to do is avoid any nonsense. They don't want a mistrial declared or any other sort of BS. They want to make sure that this trial goes off without a hitch, and hopefully Maxwell ends up facing the justice and the full arm of the law. Maxwell's lawyers on Wednesday had asked Nathan to issue an order prohibiting prosecutors, FBI agents, and lawyers for witnesses from making statements about the case outside of the courtroom or in legal filings. That's absolutely ridiculous. So basically, what her lawyers are trying to do is get the conversation to stop. They understand that the survivors pulled an end around on these scumbags and went directly to the people themselves. They used social media as a tool and avoided the disgusting serpents in the legacy media and brought their message directly to you. And this is the result. You see what happens when the people have had enough? Do you see what happens when the people begin to exert pressure and begin to yell from the rooftops about these sick, disgusting child traffickers, child abusers, and pedophiles that have gone for so long without facing justice? Do you think any of this would have occurred if these survivors didn't so bravely step forward and then all of you step into the ranks behind them and amplify their voices? This would have never occurred. This is the people flexing their power on the government and forcing their hand, folks. And as long as we keep the pressure up and we let these people know that we are watching their every move, there is no way that justice will not be served in the case of Ghislaine Maxwell. Maxwell's lawyer said in their request that federal prosecutors and witnesses' attorneys have made and continue to make statements prejudicial to a fair trial for the defendant who has pleaded not guilty to sex crime and perjury charges. Boy, she's about to be pissed when we get these Preska documents of her statement, her deposition about her sex life, etc., etc. She is not going to be happy about that. Because now that that's coming out, you want to talk about fuel for the fire? You want to talk about articles being authored and dropped? You want to talk about fury? Oh, it's coming, folks. It is coming. Judge Preska just pulled back the curtain and shined the light into the room inhabited by all of these cockroaches. And oh, to watch them all scurry. It appears that given any opportunity, lawyers associated with the prosecution of this case will offer any opinion that damages Miss Maxwell's opportunity for a fair trial, the filing said. That's such BS. Just the circumstantial evidence alone added to the witness testimony of the girls who were abused is plenty for the public, okay? We don't need to hear any statements from the lawyers or from anyone else at this point. The cat is out of the bag. What we know and what we have seen and what has been unearthed is enough for anybody to become sickened by what occurred and to demand that justice is leveled to all of these people, all of these so-called elite, all of these members of so-called polite society are about to be exposed for the vermin that they are. But in her ruling Thursday, Nathan said that she firmly expects that counsel for all involved parties will exercise great care to ensure compliance with this court's local rules and the rules of professional responsibility. Again, I can get down with that. People should be professional. Now that we have reached the trial phase of this, I think that it would be a good strategy for the lawyers to focus on just the case. There's no need for them to make any public statements really at this point. Like I said, the cat is out of the bag. There are enough people covering this case now. There are enough independent content creators and independent journalists that have dug in, and they aren't going anywhere. They're going to continue to cover this case no matter what, and they're going to do it in a transparent manner. So the legal team for these girls has done their job. They have brought all of this to the forefront. They have brought all of this to light. And now there is no way to stop what is coming. In light of this clear expectation, the court does not believe that further action is needed at this time to protect the defendant's rights to a fair trial by an impartial jury, Nathan wrote. And again, I don't know about you, but if I got called for jury duty for this case, she would have to really provide serious evidence. I mean, like documented evidence, video that she didn't do it at this point, considering all that we know. And if you think what we know is the extent of it, you are wrong. The federal government has piles of evidence in this case. Piles of evidence, folks. The judge's denial of the gag order request was without prejudice, meaning that Maxwell's lawyers can refile their gag order request if other grounds arise for it in the future. So, Judge Nathan left the door open for Maxwell's team to refile their request for a gag order if the prosecution and the lawyers for the accusers get out of line and say something in public they shouldn't, etc., etc. Then Judge Nathan has left the door open for her to revisit this decision at a later date. Those lawyers had asked for the gag order on the same day that President Donald Trump, a former friend of Epstein, said at a White House press conference, "I just wish her well," when asked about Maxwell's criminal case. Trump had socialized with Epstein and Maxwell years ago. Again, what a ridiculous statement. What a ridiculous statement. How about, I have no comment on a federal case at this time. I want to see it play out through the courts, but my sympathy and sorrows go out to the survivors. Would that have been so hard? But no. I just wish her well. If you haven't heard my full statements on that, you can go back and check a few episodes ago, and I had a few things to say about Donald Trump's statements. A spokesman for the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York, which is prosecuting Maxwell, declined to comment on the gag order request. Again, they know what's up now. The prosecution has their ducks in a row. They're firing on all cylinders right now, it looks like, folks. And it most certainly looks like to me that we have other indictments in the pipeline, probably sealed right now, grand jury indictments, that will be released or acted upon in the very near future. A spokesman for the law firm of the attorneys David Boies and Sigrid McCauley, who represents an accuser in Maxwell's case, did not respond to a request for comment. And again, it would be prudent for them not to comment at this point. Take a step back, prosecute your case, charge hard, keep digging for evidence, and let the other people who are involved now, content creators, etc., carry the torch. Because we're protected under the First Amendment. We have a lot of ability to criticize and to give opinions and to cover this case. So they really have no tool to shut us up, that's for sure. But when it comes to the prosecution and the team for the survivors, there are certain things that Maxwell's team could do to try and quiet them down. And obviously this gag order was a big tool in their arsenal. So it's nice to see that Judge Nathan smacked it around and launched it out of the park. Boies and McCauley's recent public comments about Maxwell were cited in the filing, and a gag order would have applied to them if Nathan had granted it. Epstein, 66, died from what has officially been ruled a suicide, allegedly, by hanging last August in a federal jail where he was being held without bail on child sex trafficking charges related to his alleged abuse of dozens of underage girls. The case related to alleged conduct from 2002 through 2005 at Epstein's luxurious residences on the Upper East Side of Manhattan and in Palm Beach, Florida. Before his conviction on state sex crime charges in Florida in 2008, Epstein had been a friend of President Bill Clinton and also with Britain's Prince Andrew. Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, I know that everybody's amplifying Trump's comments, and they should be amplified, but don't think that Bill Clinton's getting a pass from me. Don't think that this is going to be one-way traffic, because as everybody knows who listens to this podcast, they can all get it from me. I eviscerate every single person who was involved in this case, from Trump on down to Bill Clinton. I do not care. Okay? Everybody who enabled this son of a bitch, everybody who hung out with this son of a bitch, and most certainly everybody who partook in the abuse of these girls, all of you need to be called out, and all of you need to answer some serious questions. And when I say answer some questions, I don't mean through your media guy or some just absolutely ridiculous nonsense like, I wish her well. Hard questions, hard answers. One of Epstein's accusers has said that she had sex with Andrew at the direction of Maxwell, Andrew denies her claim. Maxwell, who has repeatedly denied any wrongdoing, is charged with helping Epstein in the mid-1990s recruit and groom underage girls, at least one as young as 14 years old, so that he could sexually abuse them at his residences in New York, Palm Beach, and Santa Fe, New Mexico, as well as Maxwell's home in London. How is this not a RICO case yet, folks? We have girls being transported over state lines, over international boundaries. We have money laundering. We have payoffs to victims. We have threatening of victims. You look at NXIVM, RICO. You look at R. Kelly, RICO. But yet here we are in the Jeffrey Epstein case and still no RICO. It bothers me. She is also accused of lying under oath about her conduct and her knowledge of Epstein's conduct in depositions taken for a civil lawsuit involving an Epstein accuser. Now remember, that's what I was just talking about. These are some of the files that are going to be released by Preska per her ruling today. Maxwell's lawyers in their gag order request cited comments after her July 2nd arrest in New Hampshire by acting SDNY U.S. Attorney Audrey Strauss and FBI Special Agent William Sweeney at a press conference. Strauss at the press conference had said that Maxwell lied under oath because the truth, as alleged, was almost unspeakable. What is wrong with that? Obviously, Judge Nathan didn't see anything wrong with it either. It is the truth. It is the premise that the prosecution is operating under. The prosecution believes that you're guilty. The state believes that you're guilty. It's up to you to defend yourself there, Ghislaine, and trying to silence girls who have been silenced for far too long is not a good strategy. That alleged truth, Strauss went on to say, was that Maxwell enticed minor girls, got them to trust her, and then delivered them into the trap that she and Epstein had set for them. Think about how vile that is. That is coming from a prosecutor saying that, okay? She's mimicking what we have been saying for almost a year now here on this podcast, but it is significant when a prosecutor of Audrey Strauss's stature comes out and says those very same things. She pretended to be a woman they could trust, all the while she was setting them up to be sexually abused by Epstein and, in some cases, by Maxwell herself, prosecutors said. There's nothing wrong with those statements. That is exactly what she is being accused of, okay? Nice try, Cohen. Nice try, Everdahl, but that is not going to work. Maxwell's attorneys in their filing wrote, although Ms. Strauss sprinkled her comments with the phrase, as alleged, she presented certain of her statements as fact. Well, sorry, that's the way it certainly looks, and you can try and pick apart her statement, but the fact of the matter is, she said alleged. Point blank, period, game over. Sweeney, during the same press conference, called Maxwell one of the villains in this investigation and also compared her to a snake that slithered away to a gorgeous property in New Hampshire, Maxwell's lawyers noted. Well, did she or did she not? Is she or is she not a villain? So, again, technicalities and, oh, well, don't be mean. Shut up, okay? Maxwell has everything coming, and her lawyers and Geraldo and anybody else who thinks that they're going to white knight her and come riding to her defense is about to get it with both barrels and get absolutely verbally eviscerated, okay? Thus, Mr. Sweeney offers the government's, again flatly wrong, opinions about character and guilt while, at the same time, invoking a semi-biblical reference involving a snake slithering away to a garden in New Hampshire, the filing said. Yeah, that's exactly what she did. She slithered away. The accuser's lawyers, boys, the filing noted in an ABC News interview after Maxwell was ordered detained without bail, had said, remember, these girls were abused twice. Once sexually years ago, and then a second time when Epstein and Maxwell and all their enablers began these vicious attacks on their credibility. And we're seeing that right now with douchey-ass Dershowitz coming out gunning for Maria Farmer. I'm going to have a lot more to say on that later on, and I'm going to have a lot to say about Alan Dershowitz. But the fact of the matter is this, folks. He cherry-picked a lot of her comments and used them out of context. Maria is not a hateful person. She is certainly not an anti-Semite. And a guy like Alan Dershowitz is flailing now for anything he can hold on to so he does not drown. And if he thinks coming out and attacking Maria Farmer as she battles for her life with this disgusting cancer that she's dealing with, and that there is not going to be return fire his way, he is sorely mistaken. Because my guy, Alan Dershowitz, you douchey, dirty son of a bitch, I don't care if you have your tighty whities on or not. You are about to get it, sir. No question about it. Maxwell knows where a lot of the bodies are buried. If I was somebody who had participated in their sex trafficking, I would not be sleeping easily tonight, Boys had said. The filing also noted that Boy's colleague Macaulay in the same interview said Ghislaine was really the central figure, so she worked hand in hand with Jeffrey Epstein to be able to facilitate these crimes over the course of more than 2 decades, and she was the main person who assisted him and allowed him to be able to perpetrate so many crimes against young females. All factual comments. Judge Nathan obviously agrees. You will not get the gag order, and to add to your misery, on top of all of that, Preska is also releasing the documents. So Alan Dershowitz, Glenn Dubin, Bill Richardson, Mr. Wexner, Marvin Minsky, all of you dudes are in for some rough nights. And if you think any of you are wiggling off of this hook, you have not been paying attention what is going on here on this podcast and around the alternative media world, because all of you douchebags are on notice. The year 2020, that's the year the predators turn into the prey. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All links that pertain to this episode are found in the description box. To everybody who has donated to the GoFundMe, thank you very much. All right, everybody, I'll be back later on, and we'll do it again because guess what? We had so much fun doing it this time. Until then, folks, enjoy your day.